I don't feel alone. We just settled in and it already feels like home.
You're listening to the Feels Like Home podcast with Mike Throne and Marty Ford. Powered by Horizon. This is big. This is gig.
Wow, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It has. It's been, life's been really busy.
And I don't mean this as a slight. It's just been hard to schedule.
Yeah.
Folks. Yeah, it's funny. We've done 4 seasons, right? So It gets a little harder to find the folks that you haven't talked to already and keep that new feel to what's going on. So that's where we've kind of struggled a little bit.
Yeah, and then scheduling. I mean, people are just really busy right now. We went through the holidays, and I had family in. You had family in. Like it was just tough to schedule around. But
yeah,
we're here.
And I'm excited that we're the group that we've got coming in here. As we sit here and talk about this, we have 3 in the bag, and we have 1 more scheduled. So you're going to hear some really great folks, maybe some folks that you don't know real well. Starting today with Anna Armistead, who is is with the Hope Partnership Project. If you know that by their former name, which was the Heroin Partnership Project, and then they kind of evolved into something that was a little more positive in the namesake, but it's really still holding to that effort to help people overcome addiction to drugs and alcohol. These are really important episodes to have.
I agree.
We get into some conversations and some controversy a little bit in this one. And I think it's really important for us to have these conversations as a community, because I think where we fall short sometimes, just as people, is we assume things rather than have dialogue.
Right.
And when you have dialogue, sometimes it's a little easier to understand where people come from, even if you may not agree.
Yeah, and it's like you said, they're important conversations.
Yeah,
they have to be. You have to have them. Well,
and just like you have to have an important conversation with somebody about an addiction, and sometimes you have to call it an intervention, right? The discussion and the dialogue is is the most important, and having some endpoint to that dialogue and discussion, I think, is incredibly important.
Right.
So,
and then people need to understand truly what resources are there for them.
Yeah.
And not just what they think's there, but to hear exactly what's happening in the community and what can help them the most.
And we can keep trying to wish this thing away, or arrest ourselves out of this problem. Right. That is not going to happen.
No.
Unfortunately, a lot of circumstances went into making this an issue we're going to probably have to deal with for the rest of time.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we stop trying, and it doesn't mean we stop caring about the people that are in the throes of the addiction. I've seen too many good stories come out of bad addiction.
Yeah.
To say that it's not worth it.
Yeah, can never give up.
So we hope that you enjoy this episode. We hope that you listen to it with a really open mind, and that you consider some ways that you can be a part of this fight, because it really takes an entire community to help people get out of addiction. So this is Anna Armistead from the Hope Partnership Project. All right. Well, we're really excited to restart things, for lack of a better term, with our friend Anna. I guess it's more my friend, but do you know Anna?
Oh, yeah. We used to work together.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm. I didn't even think about that. Anna Armistead, who is with Hope Partnership Project, among a million other things that she does. She is a youthful, vibrant dynamo in Ross County. And we're honored to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Dynamo. I've never had that.
Dynamo? You never heard that? I've actually described you as that to several people, actually.
Oh, I feel honored.
Yeah. She was at Benson Sesser for a while she was going to school, and recently left there to join the Hope Partnership Project.
Yeah, I've been with the Hope Partnership a year now.
Yeah. Wow. That went by quick.
Yes, it did. Quick. Full-time since June of 2023.
Right.
So.
So for the uninitiated out there, let's explain who the Hope Partnership Project is, and then we'll kind of dive into some other questions related to that.
Yeah. So the Hope Partnership Project is a nonprofit, and we are focused in the SUD field, which is substance use disorder. Dr. John Gabas started the project almost 10 years ago. So he started it noticing that there was a lot of deaths in the community due to overdoses and things like that, and wanted to do something about it. So he created the Heroin Partnership Project, which then changed to the Hope Partnership Project.
Yeah. And so how did you get connected to that? You're how old?
I'm 22.
22. So, it wouldn't be top of mind for a lot of people to think that you would be in charge of this thing at 22 years old. So how did you get connected?
Yeah, so my friend Macy Power, as everyone is familiar with her, she had worked at Adina for a while, and Dr. Gabas had asked her if she knew of anybody that would be interested in the position, and at that time it was part-time work, so I was like, sure, I'll take it on and see. And then I really fell in love with it, fell in love with their mission and vision for our community, and I met with Dr. Gabas, and he said, well, we have a full-time opportunity, and I said, okay, well, let's go. That's sort of how I got involved.
And, it's also...
The dogs have
They are back. They are back. Thank you. I missed that. Anyhow, this is not exactly one of those things that... it's not a Chamber of Commerce thing, right? Like, I'm not sitting around telling everybody, well, we had, double-digit... overdose deaths last month or anything like that. But it's so important, the work that you're doing. How did we finish 2023? I know there's still some things that got to be sorted through, but
yeah, so I brought some stats to share about that. So we had 306 overdoses in 2023. And in comparison to 2022, there was 424 overdoses in 2022. So they've gone down 118. And I think that's a lot to do with pridefully our work that we have done with pushing naloxone out in the community and doing a lot of education there. And then it isn't finalized yet for the number of fatalities, but we're looking at around 54 fatalities. And in 2022, there was 53. So the fatality rate staying about the same.
Yeah. But there again, we had a period there where we had kind of dipped, I guess, pre-fentanyl, shall we say.
Yeah.
And things were tracking in the right direction, but fentanyl's kind of changed the game for that, hasn't it?
Yeah, and sort of what I think about that is that the overdoses are decreasing because of the amount of naloxone that we have, but the fatalities are staying the same or increasing a little bit because of fentanyl and it being such a stronger drug. A lot of other things are being laced with it and people don't know, so... That's sort of my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, because we've heard of methamphetamine being laced with fentanyl. We've heard of, all of
a lot of the pill substances too. They're being pressed and people don't know.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what the Hope Partnership's work has kind of gone to, because at the beginning of it, when it was the Heroin Partnership Project, it was very much about how do we get everybody together. Yeah. We've kind of gotten everybody together now. So what are the main areas that you're focused on?
So it's kind of a long explanation. So we don't provide any direct treatment. So our organization is solely to do that connection of everyone, all of the agencies, people that are involved in the SUD field, to make sure that we're all working together towards the one common goal, which is to end overdose deaths. So we've really accomplished that, I think, to a good sense in our community. And this past year, we have been working with the National Institute of Health and Healing Community Studies. We were given a grant for Ross County to implement some bigger projects. So over the last year, we've had the harm reduction vending machines that we've implemented. We purchased a large passenger van for Chillicothe treatment to transport people to and from treatment. We started a Leave Behind program with EMS to collect data to leave naloxone behind on overdose runs, and submitted the nalox boxes around the community as well. So there's a lot of different things like that we've done to help implement into the community.
At the Chamber, we've actually hosted and sponsored, I guess, for lack of a better term, sessions where folks can learn how to use naloxone because it doesn't seem as prevalent as it used to be, but it was not uncommon for a little while there for us to hear from restaurants or other places where they would say somebody came in to use the bathroom. Next thing you know, somebody was coming in and, hey, there's somebody passed out in there, right? Is that the type of thing that you're trying to expand in Ross County to help spread this word?
I'm a part of the PORT team. It's the post-overdose response team, and we go over the previous week's overdoses, and we collect all the data from that, and there have been a lot of bystanders that have used naloxone to help reverse an overdose. So that's something that we're trying to empower the community to help save lives in that manner, and to have naloxone in schools, to have it at restaurants, gas stations, really everywhere, trying to make it more I guess like is it EAD machines, sort of how that's everywhere you go.
Right.
But naloxone's kind of the same way, that it's everywhere just in case something happens. And it won't ever harm anybody. If it's not a drug overdose, it won't do any harm. It can be used on someone that's pregnant. It can be used on a child. So there's nothing to fear in that sense of, what if it's not an overdose?
Yeah.
Better safe than sorry.
Good.
Do you hear of overdoses for children?
We have had a couple juveniles
Okay.
that I've seen in Port, and we don't get the names or anything like that, just their age.
Yeah. And is that mostly a product of getting into something that they didn't know about? I mean, or
from what I've seen, it's been trying something that a friend's had. There's the weed pens that kids have tried, and there's been, some fentanyl and the weed pen and things like that. So it's more so trying something rather than getting into something that maybe a parent or someone in the home had.
Right. So when you look at the average age and the demographics, I guess, of an average overdose, what do you see?
A Caucasian male in his mid-30s.
Okay. So, and that is more than likely a history of substance abuse, but somebody that has gotten it. Do you see more than one for most people?
I think most of it's like a dual diagnosis of mental health and substance use disorder. They're trying to cope, and they need an out, and they do it one time, and they're like, oh, well, they can't stop now, kind of thing. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think the other part of it too for me is, do you hear about the same people overdosing on a pretty regular basis?
We do have a lot of repeats,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
And again,
do those show up in the numbers that you shared? Like
Yeah.
repeats? Okay.
They
Very,
do.
very good. Okay.
So with Port, we have it's in law enforcement's involved. We have EMS, and it has all the data collected. We have the reports if they've been a repeat. We even have addresses, so a lot of addresses that overdoses have happened at. So we have all of that data collected.
and I think it's important to note that the Port team is not approaching this from a law enforcement perspective. Law enforcement is involved, but it's not like they're going there and saying, okay, there was an overdose here last week, so now we're showing up with a warrant.
Yeah.
It's more about how can we help, right?
Yeah, it's really trying to bridge that gap with law enforcement and people that have SUD, trying to help show that they're there for a form of support and they want to help, and not just be there for, your consequences kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it might be difficult for people to separate the two. So the law enforcement aspect of being a police officer or a sheriff's office deputy or whatever, and then the component that says we need to help folks as much as possible. Sometimes that seems incongruent. And so I wonder, how do you answer that question if somebody comes to you and says, oh, hey, there's been 5 overdoses there in a year. Why aren't you arresting someone?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not really a question for you because you're not a law enforcement officer, but I'm sure you get it, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people just get confused of why someone isn't getting arrested when there's an overdose or something, and they're going to, the law enforcement is knocking on the door saying, hey, I have a Port bag to help get you to treatment. There's information in here. And I think it's just to help build that better relationship. And that's about the best answer I have there. And we have bridge days that we do as well. And it's the whole bridging the gap between law enforcement and things like that we go out to high neighborhoods that have a lot of overdoses, just to try to get our name out there and help people get to treatment, and just give them whatever help that we can.
Do you feel like the stigma is still a huge issue.
Oh yeah.
So I've been hearing that for, probably the better part of a decade. So the question becomes, is there any place where stigma isn't an issue?
Exactly. Yeah.
And if there is, then how do we figure that out? Right. Like, I mean, I don't know that you can get rid of stigma 100%, but how do you get it to where there's a lot of folks that are saying, listen, I don't love the idea that we have to have naloxone and vending machines, but it is a really important thing if I'm going to get person A one more chance to try to get the treatment.
I come to it from a point of view of we're all human. There's a lot of people will refer to those that are in active substance use as them or those people, but they're just as human as you and I are.
Right.
And it's important. I mean, from my faith background of, Jesus loves person A just as much as he loves me. We're no different in his eyes, and I'm not going to judge somebody for that either. And a lot of those people, well, there I go, those people, a lot of the people that are in an active use, they are very ashamed of themselves too.
Yeah.
And that
Right.
extra judgment and stigma from their community makes it 10 times harder to go to treatment, to seek help. And when they feel like they can't even rely on their community. And I always remind people too, we have no idea what they've gone through and what has led them to this path.
Well, as we know, mental illness is a huge contributor to this. Sometimes past trauma is a huge contributor. Sometimes current trauma, right? And so I think, the one thing that you have to remember is because we're all human, we all process things differently. I was actually having a conversation about back home where I'm from in Northern Ohio. A classmate of mine passed away, and as his wife was processing this death, she wasn't progressing at a rate that people thought she should or whatever, or and so it was like literally people are messaging me, and I'm like, hey, number one, I'm 4 hours away, so maybe I'm not the best judge of this, but two, why don't we just let her grieve on her own, right? And be there for her, support her, all those things. But, because she is in recovery, there was a lot of concern for her, right? And I think, be sensitive to that, but at the same time, let them grieve on their own and understand that we're all different. My addiction might be to Netflix, but it's still something that I continue to do. It's not destructive, but.
And I think people forget too that your brain is literally hijacked. You are not, not in control anymore. And, people always say, well, it's their choice to keep using. It's their choice that they started using. Well, it may have been their choice the first time, but most of the times after that first time, you're not in control anymore.
Yeah.
And it takes you to frankly go to hell and back to get in control of your brain again. And that's where the biggest support and help is needed.
Yeah, everybody has a different way to cope with things, right? Sometimes it's simple things that help you cope. And then some people, they find themselves on this path with substance abuse, coping for problems and life issues. And it's so easy to judge people in that space, but we have to understand that you are not in control.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you went that direction, because that's lucky for me. I've not had to deal with a lot of that. But I did have a cousin who really struggled with substance abuse, and she passed away at a very young age. And just to see that she had climbed back and was in a really good place in her life, and the one time that she let her guard down, she got something that was laced with fentanyl,
and that's what makes it so scary right now is just the fentanyl is so strong, and xylazine that's in drugs as well, that somebody can be in recovery for so long, and then they have a bad day, and there's a slip, and that's what happens, and that's what breaks my heart is and it's getting so scary is that it is so potent. There's not a coming back.
Right. And I'm confused by that, really, to be honest, because it seems counterproductive for the people producing this stuff to make it so strong that they're killing off their consumers. But I know that they're trying to make it so addictive that people just are trapped and can't get out of it.
Yeah.
But it's like they've gone too far, and I don't know. It's confusing.
The conference that you held at the Chamber, Mike, where they came and spoke, a lot of the drugs are coming from, different places, and they don't really, it's not in their population.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter that people are dying.
Yeah, and I think you have to remember, ultimately, what we're talking about is people that don't necessarily have the caring mechanism that we have.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Sure.
Folks that are producing and selling drugs are not particularly the folks that are, looking to care for people. So,
and I guess those numbers are probably so big that it doesn't impact.
Yeah.
It doesn't impact them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you're
Scary.
right. You brought up marijuana pens and things like that. I mean, I can tell you right now, just from being at the schools for junior achievement over the last 6 months, vaping is such a huge issue, and you just don't know if somebody gives you something on a pen or in a pen or something else. You just don't know where it came from, right?
Yeah, and
So
that's
scary.
where we're trying to help a lot too with the prevention aspect in schools and just with the education. And I mean, I can tell you when I was in school, I had no education on what kind of drugs were out there, what not to do. And, you're told from your parents and stuff, but there's so much more to it. And I think that that's a big piece that's missing. And with the Hope Partnership Project, we have a youth coalition, and we're really trying to head that on with the prevention aspect of it, because it really starts when you're in middle school, high school, because sometimes that's when the traumas and things like that are happening that lead to the bigger mental health problems down the road.
Yeah, because I think most people, the gateway into addiction ultimately is desperation, right?
100%.
Because you're either trying to forget something, trying to cope with something, or trying to move beyond something.
Yeah.
And so that desperation leads you to, man, I'll do anything to numb what I'm feeling right now or what happened to me. And then that just starts another cycle of desperation. Now I'm desperate to get the thing that makes me forget the other thing. And, to Marty's point, when you get a bad day, that desperation kicks in all the more.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's something I'm sure we can all relate to. It's like, oh, I've had a bad day, I'm going to have a glass of wine when I get home, kind of thing. And for someone that's in recovery, that feeling is, oh, I'm wanting to have this substance. And it's 10 times harder to fight that than it is for us to say, oh, I'm just not going to have a glass of wine or a beer or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I would note that alcoholism is not necessarily in your purview, but obviously there's similar aspects to it because it's addiction, right?
Sure.
And so whatever really I think causes people to try to numb things, whatever they're choosing, obviously has to be. I'm sure you've probably seen multiple people with drug and alcohol addictions.
Yeah, and I think that, something I always say is people in recovery are the strongest people I know, because they've been through unmentionable things.
Right.
They've been through the recovery process, through being in, active substance use, and then they get out of it. And I'm like, I can't imagine the kind of strength and determination that you have to have for that. And I think it's some people that we could really look up to and really gain a lot of light from.
Yeah. So that's some of the bleaker aspects of things. But I think one of the great things about your work and the work of the project is that they are out there to inspire folks and to help reduce stigma and try to find a better future for everyone.
Yeah, and really just educate too.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't educated about it, and that's where our community forums come in hand, and our employer forums is educating employers on how to have a recovery-friendly workplace. Educating the community on what is substance use disorder, how, I feel like everybody has someone they know that has had substance use disorder, and if it's a friend, a family member, or whatever.
Right.
So just helping people have a better understanding of how to be there for people, and just a better understanding for the community too.
Yeah. really the folks that are in the recovery services really are the dealers of hope in this thing. And so we have many of those great folks here. We had Joanna on not last season, I think. We've had Dr. Gabus on. He was one of the first people we brought on.
Right.
Who are the other folks that you really feel are out there and they're working hard on this recovery aspect?
I would definitely say the peer recovery supporters, because they are the ones with lived experience, and they're the ones that are going to meet with people every day, going there to say, hey, I've been exactly where you've been. I get it. And that's something I can't say to someone. And they really are out there, fighting the good fight. And a lot of those are at Ross County Community Action, which I can't say enough about them and how much they do for our community. But I would say a lot of those people, and really the Port team, they really are incredible every week, going out to meet with people and meet with families.
Yeah. How does this dovetail with the homeless issue, and how do you, it's probably a lot harder to serve that community, obviously, because with them being transient in the idea that they're in multiple spots, now that we have a resource center, that might help a little.
Yeah.
But how is it, how do you have to modify your approach to deal with that?
So I'm sure, have you heard of Ross County Recovery Outreach Center?
Yeah.
So they're behind Krispy Kreme, and I go there every now and then just to register people for the machine and just talk with people. And not every person that comes to RC Rock is in active use or anything like that. So they help in all aspects, and we help support RC Rock as well. I know the health department, they have a homeless outreach as well. I can't say that I'm really directly involved with the homeless outreach, but I think it's definitely something that's touched on with our community.
Yeah. And I know that, I think that's what a lot of folks that, again, to get back to stigma and to get back to a misconception, I think a lot of people seem to think that because there is high mental illness in the homeless population, that it's also a high substance abuse population. It's not necessarily the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you.
And so I to step on a soapbox for a quick second, to me, we have to stop thinking of them both wedded together. Mm-hmm. We've got to look at it as separate issues, and look at, just like we look at every addict individually, we've got to look at every homeless person individually too. It's very important, I think. So what kind of events and things are you, before we get there, I do want to talk about the vending machines. Obviously, this week I was at a meeting where there was some opposition to them in some areas. And I think, first of all, I guess, do you understand the objection to what people are saying? And I thought your responses were good. The former, I guess, one of your colleagues on Hope Partnership, Nikki Priest, who's, I guess, moved on to some other things now, but she was there and helped because she was at the beginning of this thing.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, what your thought process is on the objections to the vending machines and where we go from there.
Yeah. So I'm going to start off with my headline every time I talk about the harm reduction vending machines, is that it is bringing compassion to our community.
Right.
So I think that I do understand some of the arguments against it, and I think it just comes from a lack of education. And
sure.
I understand, some parents or grandparents get a little uncomfortable if a kid, daughter, whatever, sees the machine, and then there has to be a conversation. And I think that it truly just comes from there hasn't been an education there, and really it's stigma that, they don't want those people, quotation marks around, or they don't want their kids to see it. And you got to think of it, you go to a Walmart, you go to the gas station, it's the world we live in. And it's an unfortunate fact, but there's some ugly facts about the world, and this is just one of them.
Yeah. And there are a lot of ugly facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Divorce is an ugly fact.
Yep.
You have to have that difficult conversation with a child.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody breaking into your house, or a house fire, for example, things that are unexpected. You have to have these difficult conversations with children on a very regular basis.
And I applaud that, because I think that, that helps with the prevention and education. If your kid asks, hey, what's in that machine, or why is it there? It provides, the education to know, oh, wow, I understand what's going on in my community. People are caring, kind of thing.
And I think the important part, and I've gotten this from when I've seen therapists in the past. Particularly when I got divorced, I just remember saying in like every session, I would say, but what do I tell my kids? Like, what do I say to my kids about this thing that they're going through? And I'll remember that the therapist said to me, listen, you don't have to be brutally honest, but you can be honest and you can be compassionately honest. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, that I never, all I could think about was being brutally honest, right? Like, and so to me, it just felt like it was almost handing me the keys to be compassionate. And to say, I understand that what you're going through sucks. And I know I have to help lead you through that, and I'm here for you. And I think that's the way we have to approach this from the community standpoint as well.
You can't just ignore it either. I mean, it's a problem, and it's not going to go away by just turning your face. You know, you don't want your kids to be a part of the statistic. You don't want your friends or family to be a part of the statistic, and that part of that is the education. So when people say, well, what if they ask questions? I'm like, praise God. I hope they do.
Let's find the answers.
Find answers for it.
And that's where with our collaborative meetings and forums too, where we want to have those conversations. So if you don't know how to have the conversation, come to our collaborative meetings, come to our forums, and we'll talk to you about it. And I don't want people to think that I'm not going to hear them if they have objections or anything. I want people to know that they're heard and that I understand the concerns. And if I don't know the answer, then I'm going to try to find it. I want you to be, comfortable with it just as much as I am.
Yeah. And I feel like that was the approach that you used in the meeting earlier this week. It was more about let us give you the data and the science behind what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I want to hear what you have to say. But then ultimately it really wasn't in your hands anyway, right? Like what could have happened is they could have said, all right, we're not doing any more of these and we're not going to do this, or we're going to take the ones out that we have. That didn't happen, thankfully. And I hope down the road that, people can see differently about them.
And people just have to know too, all of our decisions are data driven decisions. We wouldn't have put in 5 and 6 harm reduction vending machines if it wasn't needed.
Right.
We have the data to back that up, and it's not just like we, picked a spot on the map.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the important things is this is not just a naloxone vending machine. There's fentanyl test strips in them that test for that, and xylazine. There are other things. Hep C is a huge deal with this type of thing as well. And so there's, I think what we need to do down the road, to me, is maybe have kits that help home test kits for Hep C and things like that. But I feel like there's just a great wealth of resources in these machines.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people too thought that this was funded like by tax dollars or the library and things like that. And it's fully funded from the Hope Partnership Project, from grants that we receive and fundraising. But with the machines, since they were installed mid-November, we've distributed 289 items and have 81 people registered for the machines.
Yeah.
And I just think that's incredible. And that's 81 people that we've helped.
Yeah. So I think it's really important as well to get naloxone and other things, these test strips and so on, in the hands of average people. Who, again, I have a business that's right downtown. I don't know what's going to happen on a daily basis, but honestly, it could happen anywhere.
Yeah.
So having naloxone in your business, in your glove compartment or whatever, to me is a very, very important thing. I've heard of people that have happened to have naloxone in their car and had to use it. So how do we do that? How do we get, is the Hope Partnership regularly engaged in trying to get that stuff in the hands of the folks that could use it?
Yeah. So, if you want naloxone, there's a code on the vending machines that you can use. It's listed on the front of the machine, and you can get yourself naloxone, and it's free from the vending machine, and it's free from the health department too. And if somebody ever needs like a bulk, order of it, I can always get that to them as well.
Yeah. And I just think that, the more that we have out in the community, I think the better we are prepared to fight for one more chance.
It just shows that we're being proactive instead of reactive.
Sure.
And I feel like that has been a lot of in this field, it's been a lot of reaction to what's going on.
Yeah.
And I really want us to be more proactive and protect our community, because it's growing, unfortunately, and I hate it, but we're doing what we can do to try to help the community and just show the love and support that everyone needs.
In terms of the Inspiring Hope, what are you doing to collect stories of folks that are actively in effective recovery and are, maybe your peer supporters or other folks that have, gone out and done some good things?
Yeah, so we usually when we have events, there'll be someone speaking about their recovery story, but we also have a section on our website too that has stories and videos of people that are in recovery. And in that section, you could submit your own story. If you have a story of recovery, you can submit that on our website, and we'll publish it on there, on social media, and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's really important, and we can always hear about the sad and tragic stories, but there are so many great stories to celebrate out there. People that I've gotten to know when I was at the Gazette and telling their stories, and to this day, when I see them and see them successfully managing their recovery and managing their families, and some of them employed in law enforcement and day reporting and things like that. It's just so inspiring to me to say, boy, there is a way out and there's a path out, right?
Mm-hmm. There is. I'm sure you both know of Jelly Roll. He's a singer.
Yeah.
Okay. So he just, there was a video that was going out about him. I don't know if you guys have watched it, but he was talking about how he used to be a drug dealer and how he's, now trying to fight for people that are in addiction and everything like that. And he was just saying, you just have to love people and you just have to educate them. And I thought, that's exactly what we're trying to do here. And that shows you, someone that's, a celebrity is trying to make a difference, and we all should too, and look up to that.
Yeah. I feel like one of the biggest successes of the Hope Partnership Project is its ability to bring all aspects of the community together, from the court system to the law enforcement to the treatment to, to the businesses and so on. Are there still gaps that you're trying to effectively fight, and how can we help get that word out?
Funny you asked that. I was just working on that this morning with our good old strategic plan.
Yeah.
So there are some areas that we want to work on with making sure that just collecting data and seeing what's effective with treatment centers, making sure everyone is still kind of working together with different methods and, medicated assisted treatment and all of that. So there is some work going on behind the scenes with that, and we're sort of implementing what we're going to do this year with helping fill those gaps and finding those gaps as well. So with the dual diagnosis of, mental health and substance use disorder, making sure that there's the correct treatment from, a good provider, and people are properly educated in that field to do the treatment as well.
Yeah. We haven't heard a lot about OxyContin and pills and things like that as much as we used to, right? Our bigger issues are fentanyl and lacing of drugs and things like that. But is that still an issue? I feel like it's gotten better mainly because ORS is out there and other ways to trigger, hey, this person's doctor shopping or pharmacy shopping or whatever.
Yeah, I definitely think that's gotten better with doctors knowing that thing and screening too before you're prescribing certain medications. But mainly what I see in port is a lot of it is fentanyl related. It's still, it's in the drug, or that is what they're choosing to use. So I haven't seen a whole lot of other things that are different. So it's just the different drugs.
Yeah.
That. But methamphetamine, it's still a big one as well.
Yeah, it's funny, before heroin became such a thing and opiates became such a thing, it felt like methamphetamine was a big issue, and cocaine and so on. Those are kind of coming back now, and what we're seeing is, because they're coming back, we're seeing them laced with other things that are leading to overdoses and more, right, which is sadly tragic, But
it is. But I think it shows too that a lot of this, there's a big mental health piece that's missing.
Yeah.
I feel like, as you grow up, it's you push down your emotions, we don't cry, or you get over it, and that's leads to bad habits, bad behaviors, bad coping mechanisms, which then can be led to, substance use. So I think that there's just a lot of areas that need to be hit on to help with the problem. That there's the root of the problem is a lot deeper than we think sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very complex issue, so trying to treat it simply is not going to work,
Yeah,
right?
that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Complex issue.
Yeah. What did I miss?
I did bring notes. I'm making sure that
I knew you were going to bring notes. I want you to know that.
You mentioned funding and
Yeah.
fundraising. Like, where does your biggest support come from, and like, what can the community do to help this project? Because it's obvious it's super important.
Great question, Marty. And that is one I would have forgotten. And that's so important. So on our website, we have a donation page, and you can choose to be an entrepreneur of hope. And that is different sponsorship levels. And then we have the Hope Partnership Giving Club. So that's where you can sign up to be a friend, an advocate, and that's a reoccurring donation each month. And a lot of our funding currently comes from different grants that we have too. But grants are very specific for very specific projects. So when we do things like our forums or getting flyers for education or things like that, that comes out from our fundraising dollars. So on our website is where people can donate.
Yeah, and those grants often come with reporting requirements and things like that, which are
very specific,
sometimes very arduous, right?
And they don't always last super long either. So.
Yeah.
What is the website?
The hopepartnershipproject.com.
Okay.
And if people needed to contact you, is it best to go through the website?
Yep, my email is on the website, or they can text me or email me, and I can give that information to you guys for the show notes. But our Facebook and Instagram, too, is very active. So people can always message us on there if they have questions. We have a lot of things that we post, too. We're very active with posting updates about our projects that are going on and what's going on in the community, too.
Yep. Well, Again, I tell this story a lot. I thought I was done with when I left the Gazette and didn't have to report on this stuff all the time. I thought I was kind of done, but then it became very clear to me that one of the things that the business community can do for folks that are coming out of recovery is you need a stable family environment and you need a stable work environment. And we can't do anything about the family part of it, but we can help you with the jobs, right? Yeah. And so that's kind of kept me in the game for a little bit. You never know how long that's going to last, but I feel like it's definitely a way for us to help folks stay in active recovery. Yeah. And hopefully that can continue.
Yeah. And just for everyone to remember that those in active use, they're human. You know?
Yep.
We're all human, and we all deserve love. We all deserve respect and another chance. And
that's
sometimes someone in recovery needs 100 chances, but 100th time is what's right for them.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Well, and I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people that, I mean, some of them are some of my best partners, some of my best friends that have said, man, I'm so glad for the 45th chance or the 13th chance or the,
that's right,
100th chance.
And how cool would it be to be a part of that too?
Yeah.
You were a part of changing someone's life. You were the one person that never gave up on them. And I think that's something people need to think of too is, wow, you could be a part of that, you know, changing a life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the important part. What you just said is people need to see that people haven't given up on them. Because when they see people have given up on them, it's so easy for them to give up on themselves.
Well, and that's how you end up with, the most tragic of all stories, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
When that desperation leads to just hopelessness.
Yeah.
And hopelessness leads to death.
It's the worst.
And you can't judge a book by its cover. You don't know what journey they're walking
That's
they've been
exactly
on
right.
or what's led them to be where they're at.
Yeah. Well, Anna, thank you for being here today and all that you're doing. And I know you're the face of it, but at the same time, there's this huge group behind you.
The whole community.
Yeah. And I think, specific parts of that community have really stepped up in the last 4 or 5 years to help make your job a little easier. And I think we need to continue that. So hopefully folks will hear this and be inspired to action.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And people can always ask me questions, and I really appreciate you guys having me.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
You're listening to the Feels Like Home podcast with Mike Throne and Marty Ford. Powered by Horizon. This is big. This is gig.
We don't deserve it. It feels a little strange, but I don't feel alone. We just settled in and it all